Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahabushai, Bahasham, Barakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in the book of Obadiah. You know, it's only one chapter, so verse 1, and the header reads, Edom will be humbled. And this whole book is dedicated, to the judgment and downfall of the biblical Edomites, or these so-called white people as they're known today. These Americans, British, Europeans, Russians, the 1948ers over in the Holy Land, etc., etc. But the vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, concerning Edom, we have heard a rumor from Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. And hey, you're starting to see a lot of these different nations start to turn against these Edomites in the so-called Western world. Western Europe and United States of America, which is, the last leg of the fourth beast in Daniel chapter 2. Those iron toes mixed with miry clay, the NATO EU system that the U.S. is a part of and at the head of. But now I'm going to jump down to verse 7. All the men of thy confederacy, or your allies, have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Like I just said, a lot of these, nations are starting to turn against, the Western world that were once, Confederates or allies with it. And what's their main alternative? The Brics, moving towards the east. And even within that NATO EU system, you've got a fraction taking place, and those that were Confederates amongst each other, starting to turn against the system. They that were at peace with thee have deceived thee, and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread, receiving all these economic, and military aid from this system, have laid a wound under thee, eventually taking that very same economic and military aid and turning it against, the Western system. But I opened up the video with these verses to preface a clip from Lena Petrova's YouTube channel titled, Brics is expanding. Turkey, a NATO member, announces plans to join Brics bloc in 2024. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. And like I just said, you've got these nations outside of the NATO and EU system starting to turn against them. And even within the system, such as with Turkey, they're starting to turn against that system and move where? Towards the east, towards Brics. And it's all a part of biblical prophecy for Turkey to, ally themselves with Russia. And this is just one more stepping stone towards that inevitability. But before we go any further in the scriptures, I'm going to play about the first 3 or 4 minutes of this clip. And this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well today. Thank you so much for tuning in. In a somewhat of an unexpected move, Turkey expressed interest in joining the Brics bloc. As you know, Turkey has been trying to join the European Union. It has been a candidate to the EU for nearly 25 years now, since 1999, and its latest decision to explore becoming a full member of the bloc that is very much leaning towards the east might become a shift in its economic policy. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan actually was very straightforward, and he said that he believes that joining the BRICS.
And hey, a lot of those Turkish people are Edomites as well, the Ottoman Turks. And this also plays into Mark chapter 3, verses 24 to 25. If a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. On all levels, globally, the nation of Esau, Edom, is divided. That's why you're seeing them collapse, especially in the West, morally, economically, and militarily. We are living in the twilight hours of Esau, Edom's rulership before Jacob, the children of Israel, come back into power and rule for eternity in the kingdom of heaven. The children of Israel, consisting of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Read 2nd Esdras chapter 6, started around verse 7, and read to verse 9. For Esau is the end of the world, or this current age we're living in, the age of the rulership of the heathen nations, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, the kingdom of heaven.
May be, quote, a good alternative to the EU, and he said that Turkey would like to become a member of the BRICS moving forward. What I thought was very surprising at this point in time, according to Fidan, is his revelation. He said that the West doesn't exactly appreciate what he referred to as, and I quote here, identity politics. And so that precisely is what prompted Turkey to look for other alternatives. Of course, it makes perfect sense. Additionally, Fidan added that Turkey clearly sees potential in the BRICS, and that is something that is very, very difficult to ignore. I will remind you that Turkish President Erdogan participated in the BRICS summit back in 2018, and following the summit and the visit, Russian President Putin said that Ankara would be welcome to join in 2022.
Hey, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. And if you've been paying attention to the news over, the last years, while Turkey has been, a part of NATO and more or less playing both sides of the fence, they've been inching closer and closer to Russia, economically, militarily, politically. This is just one more stepping stone towards Turkey completely abandoning, the West.
It's more likely than not that Turkey had aspirations to lean towards the EU at that point in time, which appears to be no longer the case. Now, Turkey's membership in the BRICS would undoubtedly become a strategic game changer. For one, Turkey has been a NATO country since 1952, and its acceptance into the BRICS economic bloc, which would likely be nearly guaranteed as soon as Turkey officially applies to join, it would signal to the West that it may no longer have that end-all be-all appearance, and other alternatives actually may look as good, if not better, to developing nations.
Hey, it's a signal to the West that it may not be the end-all be-all or have that great appearance. Back in Obadiah chapter 1 verse 2, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised. Making them small with their reputation in the world. These nations are waking up to the fact that the root cause of a lot of these problems taking place are what? From these Western nations, especially the United States of America. They're in an economic slump because of what? Western sanctions and having to be behooving to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, as well as the US dollar. We could be here for hours going into how the West has constantly, treated these other nations as trash. Well, hey, with the rise of Brics and an alternative, hey, these nations are, looking at, the West, looking at Esau and saying, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised.
In terms of policy, Turkey has been positioning itself as both a Western and an Eastern nation state. And you might recall that for the longest time, President Erdogan was against NATO expansion into Scandinavia. He particularly didn't want Sweden to join. However, he ended up moving past his reservations back in 2023. And it should not be surprising that Turkey is interested in joining the BRICS bloc. Ankara has already made initial steps towards starting the discussions. It will participate in the BRICS ministers' meeting that is taking place this week in Russia. And during that meeting, it is expected that Turkey's BRICS membership will be discussed. It will be on the agenda. Turkey joining the BRICS bloc would be undoubtedly a highly beneficial step for both sides. So what will Turkey get out of this? Let's take a look. Well, first of all, economic benefits would be immense. With the BRICS bloc surpassing G7 in terms of GDP purchasing power parity, its economic potential is quite significant and it can no longer be ignored. Turkey's geographical position would be highly beneficial too, because it could allow it to become one of the major transportation hubs for members' cross-border trade. As I mentioned last week, the International Monetary Fund expects the economies of India and China to grow at a significant rate, while European and the US economies are not forecasted to do as well. So Turkey simply does not want to miss an opportunity to boost its economy through new foreign investment opportunities that will be available to it as a BRICS member, as well as new trade partners.
Hey, they that eat thy bread and receiving all these benefits from being a part of, this, Western system have laid a wound under thee, looking to that alternative in the East and taking all the benefits they would have, for the NATO and the EU away from it and putting it into the hands of nations like Russia, China.
Similarly to full BRICS members, there is a clear need that is recognized by Turkey to diversify away from Western financial system, and this is of course due to the risk of economic sanctions.
Запущен процесс, в соответствии с которым на последнем саммите в Йоханнесбурге лидеры поручили министрам финансов.
So having more options would allow Turkey to balance between the West and the East, as well as to leverage and to further develop a relationship with China and with Russia. So I would expect Russia to be very interested in Turkey's BRICS membership because they would be able to develop their security ties that would definitely impact their national security concerns.
And Russia is going to be very interested, in Turkey because it's all a part of biblical prophecy for them to ally with each other. And what did Lena Petrova just say? Hey, looking into building up their security concerns, their military concerns. That's it with this video. Well, with that clip. But now I'm going to go to Ezekiel chapter 38. I'm going to start at verse 2. And regardless of how these things play out, just know that the end all be all is Turkey turning against the West and allying themselves with the East, with Russia. Ezekiel 38 verse 2. Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the biblical name for Russia, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. And that's the Most High putting that old confrontational Soviet Union spirit back onto these Russian Edomites, which we can clearly see with their, war in Ukraine and them constantly making threats to the West. Just recently, after the U.S. allowed Ukraine to use the weapons that they supplied to them in the Russian mainland, Putin said that, hey, if you're doing that, what's to stop us from supplying different nations with missiles to attack you? And information just came out saying that Russia is going to do a military exercise with Cuba, which is off the U.S.'s southern border, involving a frigate, a missile carrier ship, as well as a nuclear-powered submarine. And I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Russia's military assets, soldiers, tanks, fighter jets, hypersonic missiles, the S-300, the S-400, attack helicopters, artillery pieces, etc., etc. And this is mainly talking about their forces getting gathered down into the so-called Middle East, Western Asia, into the Valley of Jehoshaphat for the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the War of Armageddon, the main and final part of World War III in Joel chapter 3. Verse 5, Persia, which is the ancient name for Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, and going into Russia's allies. And Persia and Ethiopia, I know they've expressed interest, and I at least know with Iran, they're planning on joining, the Brics. And Ethiopia said, look, we got to move away from the dominance of the US dollar. You're seeing a lot of these nations begin to de-dollarize. Verse 6, Gomer, which is speaking of Turkey. You can look, I wish I had my book, the history of the Israelites, which shows a map, of that Mediterranean region. And when they show Turkey, they have Gomer in it. But, you can find maps that show that, Gomer is in what is known as Turkey today. So Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters and all his bands, and many people with thee, be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company, thy confederacy, thy allies that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. And Russia is going to be the ultimate guard to, these other nations against the West, chiefly the U.S. And as I said, all these nations are coming with shield and helmet, bucklers and swords, their military might, which let's bring this a little bit back to what Lena Petrova said.
Turkey's Brics membership, because they would be able to develop their security ties with China and with Russia. So I would expect Russia to be very interested in Turkey's Brics membership, because they would be able to develop their security ties that would definitely impact their national security concerns.
Develop their security ties that would definitely impact their national security concerns. Gog being a guard unto Gomer, and them coming with shield and helmet and bucklers and swords. So that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong, as we can clearly see we are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.